What happens when Lady Gaga walks onto the set of The View expecting a thoughtful conversation, only for things to slowly turn tense with host Whoopi Goldberg in a debate nobody saw coming? What starts as a calm discussion about fame, responsibility, and public criticism quickly turns into one of those uncomfortable live TV moments where the room changes, the audience quiets down, and everyone suddenly realizes this conversation is going somewhere unexpected. Make sure to subscribe to the Star Talks and like and comment for more talk show coverage. The cameras sweep across the table as the applause settles. Lady Gaga smiles politely, adjusting herself in her chair while the panel exchanges greetings. Whoopi leans forward first, relaxed but observant, giving the audience a familiar grin. "Well," Whoopi says, smiling, "we're happy to have you here. It's been a minute." Lady Gaga laughs softly. "I know, and honestly, I'm happy to be here. I've missed these conversations." The audience applauds lightly. "You always bring something interesting," Whoopi says. Whether people agree or disagree. A few chuckles ripple through the crowd. Lady Gaga nods. "I think disagreement's healthy. I mean, if everybody agrees all the time, then what are we even talking about?" That earns applause. Whoopi points toward the audience. "See, now they like that." The atmosphere feels easy at first. The other hosts lean in comfortably, the kind of opening energy daytime talk shows thrive on. One host jumps in. "You've always spoken pretty openly about pressure, criticism, public expectations. And lately, people online seem to have opinions about everything." The audience laughs knowingly. Lady Gaga smiles. "Everything. Literally everything. You breathe wrong and suddenly it's a headline." Whoopi nods. "Fair enough. But," Gaga continues, "I think part of being public is understanding people are going to react. I signed up for that in some way." Whoopi raises an eyebrow. "Did you sign up for all of it?" That gets a little reaction from the audience. Lady Gaga pauses briefly. "No," she says honestly. "Not all of it. Nobody signs up to be dehumanized." A few audience members clap. Whoopi folds her hands together. "Okay, but here's where I'm curious." She pauses. "Sometimes celebrities talk about criticism like people should stop talking entirely. But audiences made careers happen too." The audience murmurs. Lady Gaga nods carefully. "That's true. So where's the line?" Whoopi asks. "Because people watching feel invested. They buy tickets, stream music, support careers. Then celebrities turn around and say, 'Don't comment on my life.' The energy changes slightly. Lady Gaga crosses one leg over the other and leans in. "I don't think people shouldn't comment," she says. "I think there's a difference between criticism and cruelty." Audience applause. Whoopi gestures quickly. "Sure, but people define cruelty differently." "Absolutely," Gaga replies calmly. One of the co-hosts cuts in. "Social media kind of changed the rules, though." Lady Gaga nods. "Exactly. It used to be somebody wrote a review in a newspaper. Now millions of strangers decide they know your soul." Audience laughter mixed with applause. Whoopi gives a thoughtful expression but doesn't fully smile. "But fame always came with judgment," she says. Lady Gaga looks toward her. "Yes," Gaga says, "but there's a difference between criticism of work and attacking somebody as a person." Whoopi leans back. "Okay, but some viewers say celebrities can sound disconnected when they complain about public pressure while living lives most people can't imagine." The crowd reacts with a louder murmur. A host quickly laughs nervously. "All right, we're getting into it." Lady Gaga smiles politely, though her expression tightens for just a second. "I hear that," Gaga says carefully. "And I understand why people think that." Whoopi watches her closely. "But pain doesn't disappear because somebody's successful," Gaga adds. "Money doesn't suddenly erase being human." Audience applause grows louder. Whoopi nods once. "I'm not disagreeing," she says. "But regular people listening might say, 'I'm stressed too, and nobody's feeling sorry for me.'" The audience reacts again, some applause, some murmurs. Lady Gaga tilts her head thoughtfully. "I'm not asking for sympathy," she replies. "That's actually important." Whoopi gestures toward her. "Then what are you asking for?" A brief silence lands. Lady Gaga answers slowly. "Perspective." The audience quiets. "I think people can criticize public figures," she continues, "without forgetting there's a human being involved." Whoopi folds her arms slightly. "But public accountability matters too." "It absolutely matters," Gaga says quickly. "I'm not saying it doesn't." The exchange is still respectful, but viewers can feel the tension settling in. One co-host tries to soften things. "You both kind of agree though, right?" Whoopi shrugs. Maybe. Audience laughter. Lady Gaga laughs too, though more cautiously. Whoopi looks back at her. Here's my issue, she says. Sometimes celebrities tell people to be kind, but don't always handle disagreement very well. A few audience sounds rise immediately. Lady Gaga pauses. You mean me specifically? She asks. That gets a louder audience reaction. Whoopi gives a half smile. I mean celebrities generally. Audience laughter. But if you want to talk about you, Whoopi jokes. The room laughs harder. Lady Gaga smiles, but there's a tiny pause before she speaks. I can take criticism, she says. Whoopi jumps in quickly. Can you? Audience reaction. Bigger this time. One host visibly shifts in her seat. Lady Gaga laughs once softly. I mean, I'm here. Audience applause. Whoopi smiles slightly. Fair point. But she doesn't move on. Because Whoopi says, leaning forward, there are people who say public figures want praise when things go well and privacy when things don't. The audience murmurs again. Lady Gaga exhales lightly. I think privacy and accountability are different conversations. How? Whoopi asks immediately. The interruption lands fast. Lady Gaga blinks, then answers. If I make art, critique it all day long. If I speak publicly, challenge what I say. But random cruelty about somebody's body, trauma, family, mental health. She pauses. That's different. Audience applause builds. Whoopi watches her carefully. But who decides what counts as cruelty? She asks. Lady Gaga leans forward now too. I think most people know. Audience reacts. No, seriously, Gaga says. I think people know when they're crossing a line. Whoopi shakes her head slightly. I don't know if I agree. The room goes noticeably quieter. Lady Gaga keeps her composure. You don't think people know when they're being cruel? Whoopi answers immediately. No. I think people justify themselves. Audience murmurs again. That's fair, Gaga replies, nodding once. But I still think intent matters. Whoopi cuts in. Impact matters more. The audience lets out an audible, oh. One host quickly laughs. Okay, this got serious fast. Lady Gaga gives a restrained smile. Impact matters, she says carefully. But if we only judge impact and ignore intent, conversations become impossible. Whoopi leans in again. Or maybe accountability becomes unavoidable. A louder audience reaction follows. The tension feels heavier now. Lady Gaga pauses longer this time. You know what I think, she says quietly. Whoopi gestures. Go ahead. I think we're living in a culture where people confuse punishment with accountability. The audience erupts, applause mixed with gasps. One co-host immediately glances between them. Whoopi raises an eyebrow. Explain. Lady Gaga sits straighter. People make mistakes. Public figures especially. But sometimes it feels like there's no room to learn anymore. Just attack, punish, repeat. Whoopi nods slowly, but her expression sharpens. Depends on the mistake. Audience reaction again. Lady Gaga notices the shift. Yes, she says. Of course it depends. Whoopi looks directly at her. Because sometimes people hear grace and think it means no consequences. The audience applauds. Lady Gaga gives a measured smile. And sometimes people hear accountability and turn it into endless outrage. The crowd reacts louder than before. The camera briefly catches audience members whispering to each other. Whoopi sits back. Now that, she says slowly, sounds like where we disagree. The room goes quiet. Lady Gaga looks back at her, calm but clearly engaged. I think maybe it is. The audience waits. And suddenly the conversation no longer feels like a casual celebrity interview. It feels like live television walking carefully towards something much bigger. Whoopi keeps her eyes on Lady Gaga for a second longer than usual, the kind of paused daytime television audiences immediately notice. The applause dies down, but the energy in the room feels different now, quieter, more focused. One co-host tries to ease the tension with a smile. Well, this became breakfast table philosophy real quick. The audience laughs, grateful for the release. Lady Gaga laughs too, lightly. I know. I didn't mean to walk in and start a debate before coffee. Whoopi smiles, but only briefly. No, but this is good, she says. Because people at home are talking about this every day. She turns toward the audience. Everybody's exhausted. Everybody's judging everybody. Everybody's mad. Big applause. Lady Gaga nods immediately. I agree with that. But here's the thing, Whoopi says, folding her hands together again. Sometimes when famous people talk about outrage culture, regular people hear, stop criticizing us. Lady Gaga listens carefully. I understand why they hear that, she says. But I don't think criticism and public humiliation are the same thing. Whoopi interrupts quickly. But humiliation is subjective. The audience reacts again. Lady Gaga pauses. Sure, she says carefully. But there are moments where it's pretty obvious. Whoopi tilts her head. Obvious to who? A soft ripple moves through the crowd. Lady Gaga smiles politely, but this time there's a tiny exhale before she answers. To people trying to act in good faith. The audience gives an uncertain mix of applause and murmurs. Whoopi catches it immediately. Ah, she says. But now we're assuming everybody agrees on what good faith is. Audience laughter. Lady Gaga laughs too, though quieter. That's fair. One of the co-hosts jumps in. I think what she's saying is there's a difference between saying, I didn't like your album, and attacking someone personally. Lady Gaga nods. Exactly. Whoopi turns toward the panel. But hold on. Nobody gets to decide how the public responds. She looks back at Gaga. You make work for millions of people. Millions of opinions come back. Lady Gaga nods slowly. That part won't accept. Completely? Whoopi asks immediately. The audience gives another collective, oh. Lady Gaga laughs once. You really don't let people off easy. Audience laughter and applause. Whoopi shrugs. Not on live television. More laughter. Lady Gaga shifts slightly in her seat. No, she says after a moment. Not completely. Whoopi leans forward. Okay, I think criticism is fair, Gaga continues. I think disagreement is fair. Even disappointment is fair. Audience nods and scattered applause. But cruelty disguised as accountability? She says. That's where I struggle. Whoopi raises an eyebrow again. See, there's that word. Cruelty. No, Whoopi says. Disguised. The audience murmurs. You're assuming people are pretending, Whoopi says. Sometimes people are genuinely angry. Lady Gaga nods immediately. They should be sometimes. That answer catches attention. Whoopi pauses. So you agree public outrage has a place? Of course, Gaga says. If someone harms people, abuses power, lies, manipulates, people should speak up. Audience applause. But, she adds, I think social media turned consequences into entertainment. That lands hard. The room goes quieter again. One host shifts in her chair. That's interesting. Lady Gaga looks toward her. I mean, think about it. Somebody makes a mistake, and suddenly it becomes jokes, memes, humiliation, non-stop pile-ons. Whoopi crosses her arms loosely. Depends what they did. Lady Gaga nods again. Yes, context matters. Whoopi interrupts. Context matters a lot. Audience applause. And victims matter, Whoopi says firmly. Lady Gaga's expression softens. They absolutely matter. The exchange pauses. For a moment, the audience seems unsure whether this is disagreement or agreement disguised as disagreement. One co-host jumps in. I actually think you two are closer than it sounds. Whoopi shakes her head slightly. No, because I think accountability sometimes feels ugly. Audience reacts. Lady Gaga looks toward her. What do you mean? Whoopi speaks more carefully now. I mean, if somebody hurts people publicly, consequences don't arrive wrapped nicely. Public anger isn't always comfortable. Applause rises. Lady Gaga nods thoughtfully. That's true. But, Whoopi continues, sometimes celebrities want the apology accepted immediately. Audience applause grows louder. You say sorry, Whoopi says, gesturing lightly, and suddenly people are supposed to move on. Lady Gaga pauses. I don't think forgiveness can be demanded. That gets applause too. Whoopi glances sideways at her. Okay, but, Gaga continues, I also think punishment without space for growth creates fear. The audience quiets again. Whoopi leans back slightly. Fear of what? Fear of honesty, Gaga replies. That earns murmurs. If people think admitting mistakes destroys them forever, Gaga says, they stop being honest. A co-host nods slowly. That's actually a good point. Whoopi listens without interrupting this time. Lady Gaga continues. I worry about younger people watching all this and learning that the safest thing is pretending to be perfect. The audience applauds louder now. Whoopi folds her hands again. Or, she says carefully, young people learn actions matter. A louder reaction follows. Lady Gaga nods. They should. Whoopi speaks over the applause. Because there's a generation saying, you don't get endless grace after hurting people. Audience applause builds. Lady Gaga doesn't interrupt. She waits, then nods once. I hear that. Whoopi notices. But. Audience laughter. Lady Gaga smiles. You're really waiting for the but. Because there's always a but. Big laughter. Lady Gaga leans forward slightly. But I think we've confused being wrong with being irredeemable. The audience immediately reacts. Some clap. Some go quiet. Whoopi looks directly at her. And who decides that? Lady Gaga pauses again. Time, she says softly. The room stills. Reflection, Gaga adds. Behavior changing. Accountability that actually means something. Whoopi watches her closely. So consequences plus growth. Yes. But who measures growth? Whoopi asks quickly. The audience reacts again. Lady Gaga exhales through a smile. You ask impossible questions. Audience laughter. No, Whoopi says. People at home ask impossible questions. Applause. Lady Gaga nods slowly. Fair. Then she takes a breath. I think growth gets measured by actions over time. Not one apology. Not one interview. Whoopi doesn't answer immediately. The silence hangs just long enough to feel real. Then one host tries again to soften things. Can we all agree the internet makes everything worse? Huge laughter erupts. Even Whoopi laughs. Lady Gaga laughs harder this time. Oh, definitely. Whoopi points at her jokingly. See, we found common ground. The audience applauds. But the lighter moment only lasts a few seconds. Whoopi turns serious again. You know what I'm still stuck on? Lady Gaga nods. What? This idea, Whoopi says, that people online are uniquely cruel. The room shifts again. Lady Gaga blinks. You disagree? Whoopi shrugs. I think people have always been cruel. Audience murmurs. Before social media, people whispered. Newspapers judged. TV judged. Communities judged. She gestures around. This table judges. Audience laughter. Lady Gaga laughs quietly. That's true. So why act like this is new? Whoopi asks. Lady Gaga leans back slightly before answering. Because now cruelty scales. The audience quiets instantly. Whoopi says nothing. Lady Gaga continues. One comment used to sting. 10,000 comments become noise. 1,000,000 becomes psychological. The audience goes silent. And when millions of strangers decide they know who you are, Gaga says calmly, it changes how people see themselves. Whoopi looks thoughtful for the first time. But she pushes again. People at home could say the same thing about everyday life. They could, Gaga says quickly. And I'd care about that too. That answer gets applause. A co-host smiles. That was diplomatic. Audience laughter. Lady Gaga grins. I'm trying. Whoopi smiles despite herself. I noticed. But then she leans in one more time. Still, she says, voice steady, I think some viewers hear celebrities say this and think, must be nice crying in a mansion. The audience erupts in mixed laughter and applause. Lady Gaga laughs too, but slower this time. Then she looks directly toward Whoopi. You know what stuns me? Whoopi raises an eyebrow. What? Lady Gaga answers calmly. That pain becomes less believable to people when someone succeeds. The audience goes noticeably quiet again. Whoopi studies her expression. Lady Gaga keeps going. And I understand resentment. I do. But suffering isn't a competition. A few audience members clap softly. Whoopi tilts her head. But relatability matters. Yes, Gaga says immediately. And privilege matters, Whoopi adds. Yes, Gaga repeats. The room gets quieter. But humanity matters too, Gaga says. That line lands hard. The audience breaks into applause. Whoopi watches without smiling this time. Then she says quietly, now we're finally getting to the real disagreement. The audience hushes again, sensing the conversation has just moved somewhere deeper. The applause lingers for a moment, but not in the loud, carefree way it had earlier. It sounds more divided now, some people nodding, others sitting back with folded arms, everyone watching more carefully. Whoopi rests her hands on the table. All right, she says slowly, because here's where I'm struggling. The room settles. Lady Gaga nods once. Okay. Whoopi glances briefly toward the audience before turning back. You said suffering isn't a competition. I believe that. And I hear that, Whoopi says. But public frustration doesn't come from nowhere. Audience applause. People are tired, Whoopi continues. Tired of struggling, tired of bills, tired of being ignored, tired of watching people with influence talk about pain while living lives that look impossible to imagine. The audience claps louder. Lady Gaga doesn't interrupt. She listens. Whoopi notices that. And sometimes, Whoopi says carefully, people feel celebrities ask for empathy without always showing much understanding back. A few audience members clap. Lady Gaga folds her hands together. That's fair criticism. The audience quiets. Whoopi pauses, visibly a little surprised. You think so? Yes, Gaga says immediately. Absolutely. One co-host jumps in with visible curiosity. Really? Lady Gaga nods. I think sometimes public figures accidentally become insulated. Audience murmurs. You live inside teams, schedules, cameras, nonstop pressure, and eventually reality gets distorted. Whoopi leans back slightly. Okay, I'm serious, Gaga says. I think success can isolate people. Whoopi studies her. But then whose responsibility is that? Lady Gaga answers quickly. Ours. That gets applause. Ours, Gaga repeats. To listen more. To stop assuming our experience is the only one. One host nods. That's refreshing to hear. But Whoopi isn't finished. See, she says, that I respect. Audience applause follows. But where I push back, Whoopi continues, is when accountability gets described like persecution. The tension returns immediately. Lady Gaga shifts in her chair. I don't think accountability is persecution. Sometimes celebrities talk like it is, Whoopi says. Audience reaction. Lady Gaga pauses. Then she says carefully, Can I ask you something? Whoopi nods. Sure. Lady Gaga leans in. Do you think people online are kinder now than 10 years ago? Audience murmurs. Whoopi laughs once. No. 5 years ago? No. Then why, Gaga asks calmly, do we act like public hostility hasn't intensified? The room quiets again. Whoopi doesn't answer immediately. Instead, she folds her arms. I think hostility intensified everywhere. Audience murmurs. Politics, Whoopi says. Families. Workplaces. Schools. Everybody's angry. Lady Gaga nods slowly. I agree. So why isolate celebrity culture? Whoopi asks. Because visibility magnifies damage, Gaga says. Whoopi interrupts. To who? To everyone, Gaga replies quickly. That catches attention. Lady Gaga gestures toward the audience. Teenagers. Kids. Regular people. Everybody. The room quiets further. When cruelty becomes entertainment publicly, Gaga says, people imitate it privately. Audience murmurs. One co-host softly says, That's interesting. Lady Gaga continues. We normalize humiliation. Whoopi tilts her head. Or we normalize consequences. The audience reacts instantly. Lady Gaga smiles faintly. There it is again. Audience laughter breaks the tension. Whoopi laughs too. What? You hear accountability where I hear punishment. The audience reacts louder. Whoopi points lightly across the table. And you hear punishment where I hear responsibility. Applause erupts. The exchange feels sharper now but still controlled. Nobody's yelling. Nobody's losing composure. Which somehow makes the tension feel even more real. One host raises both hands jokingly. I need coffee for this conversation. Big audience laughter. Lady Gaga laughs. Whoopi shakes her head smiling. No, because this matters. The room settles again. Whoopi turns serious. Let me ask you something directly. Lady Gaga nods. Okay. If someone harms people, Whoopi says carefully, and public reaction follows them for years, is that unfair? The audience goes quiet. Lady Gaga takes her time. It depends. Whoopi lifts an eyebrow immediately. On. What happened, Gaga says. Whether accountability happened. Whether behavior changed. Whether harm was repaired. Audience murmurs. Whoopi leans forward. But what if the audience says, too late? Lady Gaga pauses. Then we have to ask what justice actually means. The audience becomes very still. One co-host blinks. That's a huge question. Lady Gaga nods. Yeah. Whoopi watches closely. What's your answer? Lady Gaga exhales softly. I don't know if justice means permanent destruction. The room reacts immediately. Mixed applause. Mixed murmurs. Whoopi jumps in. But nobody's owed public forgiveness. No, Gaga says immediately. I agree. That pause lands. No one is owed trust back, Gaga adds. No one is owed fame back. No one is owed support. Whoopi nods once. Okay. But, Gaga says, I worry when punishment becomes identity. Audience quiets again. What does that mean? Whoopi asks. Lady Gaga speaks carefully. It means somebody becomes only the worst thing they ever did forever. Whoopi answers fast. Depends on the thing. Audience applause. Lady Gaga nods. Yes. She doesn't fight that point. And victims live with things forever too, Whoopi says. The room goes quiet enough to hear someone cough. Lady Gaga's expression softens immediately. I know. She says it quietly. And they matter most. Audience applause rises. Whoopi watches her for a moment. Then says, so where are we disagreeing? Lady Gaga smiles a little. I think maybe we disagree on what accountability is supposed to do. The audience hushes. Whoopi gestures. Go. Lady Gaga leans forward. I think accountability should reduce harm. Whoopi nods cautiously. Okay. I think it should create understanding. Change behavior. Repair trust where possible. Audience murmurs. But, Gaga says carefully, sometimes it feels like we just want somebody publicly broken. The audience gasps softly. Whoopi immediately leans in. Who's we? The room reacts. Lady Gaga notices and laughs lightly. You are really good at this. Audience laughter explodes. Whoopi grins. It's literally my job. More laughter. Lady Gaga nods. Fair. Then her expression settles again. I mean culture, she says. The internet. Public discourse. Sometimes outrage becomes performance. Audience murmurs. People compete to sound angrier, Gaga adds. Whoopi folds her arms. Sometimes anger's justified. Yes, Gaga says immediately. Absolutely. The quick agreement softens the room again. But I think outrage without limits eventually loses meaning. The audience quiets. Whoopi tilts her head. What's the limit? Lady Gaga pauses. I don't know. The honesty catches people off guard. I really don't, Gaga says. I just know fear isn't helping us. Whoopi studies her. Fear of criticism? Fear of being destroyed, Gaga says plainly. A silence lands. One host speaks quietly. I think a lot of regular people feel that too. The audience murmurs in agreement. Lady Gaga turns toward her immediately. Yes. She says it fast. Yes. The room notices the energy shift. I'm not just talking about celebrities, Gaga says. People lose jobs from public pylons. Kids get bullied online. Families break apart over public shaming. Audience murmurs. Whoopi leans back, thinking. For the first time, she doesn't interrupt. Lady Gaga continues carefully. I think we're all exhausted. The room grows quieter. Everybody, Gaga says. People online. Public figures. Parents. Young people. Workers. Everyone. Whoopi finally nods once. That, she says quietly, I agree with. Audience applause rises. The tension softens for a second. But then Whoopi glances back toward Gaga. Still, she says, agreement isn't the same thing as resolution. The audience lets out another collective murmur. Lady Gaga smiles knowingly. No, she says. Definitely not. Whoopi folds her hands again and looks straight ahead. Because I still think there are people watching this saying, easy to say when you're rich and famous. The audience reacts loudly. Lady Gaga exhales through a smile. Can I answer that honestly? Whoopi nods. Please. Lady Gaga looks out toward the audience for the first time in a long moment. And the room goes completely quiet. Lady Gaga looks out across the audience and pauses long enough that even the room noise fades. A few people shift in their seats. Someone near the front folds their arms. The energy feels different now. Less like a celebrity interview, more like people genuinely waiting to hear an answer. She nods slowly. Honestly, she says quietly, then stops herself with a small laugh. Let me say it this way. Audience laughter breaks a bit of the tension. Yes, she says calmer now. I'm successful. I'm privileged in ways many people aren't. I know that. The audience murmurs. I don't wake up pretending my life looks like everybody else's. Whoopi watches carefully but doesn't interrupt. But Gaga continues. I also think something dangerous happens when we decide empathy has income limits. The room quiets again. You don't stop being human because your circumstances change. Scattered applause begins. And regular people deserve empathy too, Gaga adds quickly. People working 3 jobs. Parents stressed out. People exhausted. Lonely. Angry. Everybody. That gets louder applause. Whoopi nods once. Okay. I mean that, Gaga says. I'm not saying celebrity pain matters more. I'm saying pain isn't ranked. One host quietly says, that's a strong way to put it. The audience claps again. Whoopi leans forward. But public frustration still exists. Yes, Gaga says immediately. And some of it's justified. That answer earns another murmur. If someone watches me and thinks, "You don't understand my struggle," they may be right in some ways, Gaga says. I can't fully understand another person's reality. The audience stays quiet. But I can still care. Whoopi rests her chin briefly on one hand. So what's the answer? Lady Gaga laughs softly. You're asking me to solve humanity before commercial break? Big laughter erupts. Even Whoopi laughs. No pressure. The room relaxes for a moment. Then Gaga becomes serious again. I don't think there's one answer, she says. I think we probably need more humility. Whoopi raises an eyebrow. From who? Audience laughter again. Lady Gaga grins. Everybody. Applause. Public figures, Gaga says. Media. Audiences. Politicians. People online. Everybody. Whoopi nods slowly. And accountability? Still matters, Gaga replies immediately. That answer lands. I just think accountability works better when the goal is improvement instead of destruction. The audience applauds. Whoopi sits back. And if improvement never comes? Lady Gaga pauses. Then consequences continue. Audience murmurs. Whoopi nods. That's clearer. The room feels slightly softer now, not resolved but less combative. One co-host smiles. You know what's funny? I feel like you two actually agree on more than you think. Audience laughter. Whoopi shakes her head. No, we definitely disagree. The audience laughs harder. Lady Gaga laughs too. I think we disagree on the emotional tone of accountability. Whoopi immediately points at her. Now that. Audience laughter. That's probably true, Whoopi says. The mood lightens again. One host jumps in jokingly. Can somebody please clip that sentence? The emotional tone of accountability. Big audience laughter. Lady Gaga covers her face, briefly laughing. Oh no, now it sounds like a college seminar. Even Whoopi laughs harder. But after the laughter settles, Whoopi turns serious one last time. You know what I appreciate, she says. Lady Gaga looks over. You stayed in the conversation. The audience quiets. A lot of people shut down, Whoopi says. Or they get defensive. Lady Gaga nods. Well, she pauses. I think disagreement matters. Audience murmurs. I really do. She glances toward the audience. I think people are scared of conversations now. Whoopi nods slightly. Because they go bad fast. Yes, Gaga says. And because people assume disagreement means hate. Scattered applause rises. It doesn't have to, Gaga adds. Whoopi folds her hands again. No, but it takes work. Exactly. For the first time in a while, neither interrupts the other. The audience notices. One co-host smiles. Well, now this feels weirdly wholesome after all that tension. Audience laughter fills the studio. Whoopi smiles. Don't get comfortable. More laughter. The segment producer can be heard faintly off camera signaling time. One host glances upward. Oh, we're getting the rap sign. Audience groans playfully. Lady Gaga laughs. Did we accidentally turn daytime TV into philosophy class? Whoopi points toward the audience. They signed up for it. Applause. Then Whoopi looks directly at Gaga. Before we go, seriously, thanks for staying in it. Lady Gaga nods. Thank you for challenging me. The audience reacts warmly to that. Whoopi gives a tiny smile. Don't say I never do anything for you. Big laughter. The applause rises as the segment wraps, but the feeling in the room is unusual. Nobody seems fully victorious. Nobody stormed off. Nobody exploded. The tension never became chaos. It stayed human. As the cameras pull wider, audience members can be seen leaning toward each other, already debating. She made a good point. No, Whoopi was right. It was both. The conversation doesn't end when the lights shift. Backstage, according to audience chatter afterward, people were still discussing the exchange near the exits. A few audience members reportedly described it as awkward but honest. Others called it refreshing because nobody turned it into shouting. Within hours, clips from the conversation begin circulating online. Some viewers praise Lady Gaga for staying calm under pressure. Others defend Whoopi for asking hard questions. Comment sections split instantly. Finally, a celebrity willing to sit through uncomfortable questions. Whoopi asked what regular people were thinking. They actually listened to each other. No yelling, just disagreement. We need more of this. Others debate individual moments. Was Gaga too idealistic? Was Whoopi too skeptical? Did they misunderstand each other? Or did they accidentally expose the bigger issue everyone is struggling to define? On social media, short clips of lines like pain isn't ranked and accountability works better when the goal is improvement instead of destruction spark thousands of reactions, debates, reposts, and arguments. Entertainment commentators begin discussing whether this was one of those rare talk show moments where disagreement felt real instead of performative. Not explosive, not scripted, just uncomfortable, thoughtful, human television. And maybe that's what made it stick. By the next morning, fans are still debating who won the exchange, even though the bigger takeaway might have been that nobody actually did. Because sometimes live television lands hardest when people disagree and stay at the table anyway. So what do you think? Was Lady Gaga right? Was Whoopi right? Or did both of them make valid points? Share your opinion in the comments and subscribe to the Star Talks for more real talk show stories.